Hey everybody, welcome to week 12. I'm going to get right to it and share the screen here and walk you through this week's unit. So we have our learning outcomes, effectively adapting academic writing skills to public digital spaces. That's primarily what we are focusing on in this recast project. So you're taking your research topic and kind of switching it to a more casual, more public-oriented recast. So of course, you're going to be using the library guide to help you reframe your research argument for a public audience and revise that work based on feedback from both instructor and peers, and then utilize some self-reflection to reevaluate and revise your project. So the weekly objectives are to understand that research writing can be reworked for different audiences. You've done your research, and that's primarily an academic endeavor. And now with this recast, you can imagine what your ideal audience is and hopefully recast that research to something a little bit more casual, a little bit more informal, depending on what your audience is. You're also going to explore different genres as possibilities for your writing and consider how the needs of a public audience affects choices in communicating your message. And you will choose a genre or medium that will be most effective for conveying your message and implement revision suggestions. So in this overview page, where this video will eventually be housed, I have a bunch of links to examples. Several of them are from past projects from UC English 1001 students, mostly people who have been on campus at the main campus. This first one is really interesting. That's not the actual title of the video, but I wanted to give it some title, Impact of the Internet. And this student chose to just record herself sitting in front of the computer, and she was showing her screen and how she is searching the internet and interacting with social media, but it's all done with just kind of a very subdued music in the background and just visual. There's no dialogue. You're just seeing the visuals of this person and her emotional reactions to things on the internet. So I thought that was a very interesting approach. I'm curious what her research project was, or her research paper, but it made for a very interesting video. Another student recasted their research to do a video regarding animal testing. The CrossFit video, this student, again, it was no dialogue, just the images of the person working out and some other textual aspects in the video. And then this music can be beneficial. Again, it's not the title, but I wanted you to see what the student was doing relating to music. I get the idea that the student had done some research on the benefits of music, and so the student chose to interview other college students to see how music affects them and helps them through difficult times. And then this last one, can social networking cause eating disorders? Again, a very interesting aspect, and using a lot of interviews with other students. And then I have some links to multimodal recast from other colleges and university. This one here, I'm going to click on it and open it for you. Students and social media. It's a zine of sorts, and this student actually did all this work here. So you see it's several pages, lots of artwork, and it looks like it's all handwritten and illustrated to recast their research into a different mode of presentation. So you see one example of that. And then healthy options for students. Again, another video interviewing other college students. This one here, the advantages of homeschooling, is a podcast. And I'm going to click on it and just show this person did their podcast and housed it on SoundCloud. And that's over almost 45 minutes. So they interviewed people and did the podcast, and very professional sounding and an interesting presentation. This one here, a different kind of learning, is a Prezi presentation with a voiceover. You do have to sit through a little bit of a Prezi commercial before, but then you get to the heart of the student's presentation. Prezi is a really interesting, it's like PowerPoint, you know, it's a slide presentation, but it's a lot more interactive and interesting. I've played around with it a few times. I just don't have a lot of time to devote myself completely to switching over to Prezi, but it's very visually appealing. And then Money Game here is a video on the NCAA versus education. So as you can see, videos are a really easy way. You know, with YouTube, it's just, you know, YouTube and your phone. It's very easy to do a video presentation, but I don't want you to feel like you're limited to just that. There are other options. In the example that I provided for you, the handout with the recast reflection or the rationale, that student had chosen to do an informational brochure. So you just don't limit yourself and think of how you might best be able to reach the audience that you want to reach with your information. So that is the overview. I encourage you to look through all of these just so you get a feel for it and see how you might best move forward with your own projects. So I'm suggesting that you review chapters 2, 5, and 7 in the Writer's Loop, especially section 2.2, just reviewing the 5 key components of rhetoric. So you want to remember you have purpose, audience, tone, genre, and context. And these are all things that you need to consider in your recast project. Chapter 5, is that what I said? Yes, chapter 5, reading actively and critically. So this is 5.3, understanding logos, pathos, and ethos. Just as a refresher, that's the section that I would suggest taking a look at. And then in chapter 7, of course, writing for public digital spaces. You have seen a few things from this chapter, but this is a really good chapter to really understand that whole multimodal and public digital spaces. So those are the readings from the Writer's Loop. Then we have that rationale example handout from, I think it may have been from last week, and I just reposted it. Then of course the link to the UC library, all the resources that they have housed there for your recast project. And then you have writing assignments due this week. You have a journal, which is the Recast Reflections, which is due on the 12th. And then the rough draft of your recast project is due on the 14th. If you need extra time, just email me and let me know, okay? So the Recast Reflections journal prompt. I'm asking you to read through the recast rationale example that I provided for you and answer the following questions based on that. The first 3 questions, first 4 questions are relating to what you think about that example rationale. So how does the writer address the choice of medium, purpose, context, and audience in the rationale? Excuse me. How does the writer's ethos come across? How are they credible? How do they demonstrate credibility and expertise? How does the writer appeal to their audience in this recast project? You may base your answer on the writer's rationale, the example, or both. And discuss what other possible choices the writer could have made. What would be the effect of a different choice of medium, purpose, context, or audience? And then these last 2 questions are pertaining to your own work. How might you apply these techniques in your own recast project? And do you think your message may be more effective with a different choice of medium, purpose, context, or audience? That's due Friday, the 12th. And then the rough draft here, again, is just the full recast options and the assignment itself. So, again, we have these options here, and hopefully you have been working and you're deciding on it, and you've been working towards getting this draft done. Be sure that your rough draft includes the following elements. So I want you to have a working title. And then I want you to provide a brief description of your previous argument from your research paper, just 1 to 2 sentences. And then a brief summary of your rationale that you already handed in, or an explanation of the project, about 2 to 3 sentences. You can write that as a separate document, or if you want to, you can put it in the text box entry for the assignment. And I have the submission kind of wide open for you. So depending on your chosen project and genre, you may need to submit a link to your project so I can at least see it and your peers can see it, or a document or a media file so that we all have access to your work in progress. And you're required to review or comment on 2 of your peers' projects. The goal is just to offer assistance. So it's a very casual thing. It's not, a hugely serious, you're doing this right, you're doing this wrong. It's really just to offer any assistance. If something is confusing, it helps to have somebody else look at your work and say, okay, it's okay here, but this part is a little confusing. Is there something you can do to fix out? Or if you have any kind of bugs that might be encountered while reviewing the project. So just to get some extra eyes on your work in progress. So that rough draft is due Sunday, the 14th, and then the peer review will be due Wednesday, November 17th. That is the goal. I know that you have lots of work, and some of you are a little bit behind, so you're trying to get that research project, the research paper done before you move forward into this recast project. But I'm hoping that, by by the 17th, that most people will have been caught up. As I said, you have a text box entry, a website URL, a media recording, or a file upload. It really depends on the genre that you are working in. And then of course we have the rubric here. It's 10 points. So working title, description, summary, and peer review. The peer review is 4 points. So it's important that you get this done. Okay. So that is that for this week 12 module. Good luck, everybody. And of course, if you have any questions or need any clarifications, you know how to reach me. Have a great week. Bye-bye.